memory exactly the way you remember it and somebody corrects you, but you know wholeheartedly that that's the way you remembered it? Why does that happen? Well, Ruth Ware once told us, we are unreliable narrators, all of us. I am here today to persuade you that eyewitness identifications are unreliable. I'm qualified to speak on this topic because I have done extensive research on this. I'm here to provide you examples with 4 main points. These points being how human memory and emotion, mistaken identifications, eyewitness talk, and misinformation affect. Also about how high stress and trauma can affect memory. Let's start with human memory and how emotions affect it. Our biggest mistake is that we think we remember everything we see. However, our minds are not a recorder like a camera. Our minds actually take what we remember, small pieces, and combines the gaps with past experiences. This is why our memories are sometimes really accurate, or they can be a little bit accurate and a little bit made up, or they're completely false. And now I've told you how memory is unreliable. This relates back to eyewitness identification. Now let me get into how emotion relates into this. When an eyewitness goes into trial, he or she gives her testimony, and the jury is the one that decides the ultimate outcome of the case. Cognitive psychologist Kathy Pistic once said that the jury are often very compelled by the eyewitnesses' testimonies. She also went on to say that the jury will also believe that the eyewitness's story, even if the circumstances about how the eyewitness saw the crime don't add up. Because the jury is so sympathetic with the eyewitness, it makes it hard for them to find if the story is accurate or inaccurate. And also, because the jury are just people, we don't all understand how complex the mind is and how our memories are formed. My next point is on how eyewitness identifications has led to a high error rate. In 2017, Innocence Project ran a study on 375 individuals whose convictions were overturned with DNA. Out of these 375 individuals, 69% of these individuals were found guilty by eyewitness testimonies and identifications. Now here's the story of Martin Anderson. He was one of these 375 individuals. He was convicted at age 18 for robbery, abduction, and 2 accounts of rape. His story starts July 17th of 1982, when a young woman went to the police department and says that she was raped by a black man who was a complete stranger to her. She also added in the comment that this black man had a white woman with him. Because of this comment, the police added Marvin Anderson's photo to the photos that the eyewitness chose from, and she chose Anderson. Because she chose Anderson, he was then put into the lineup where she chose him again. Now let me add in here that the community believed that this culprit was someone else, someone who lived in the neighborhood during the time of the attack. However, because this young lady pointed out Anderson twice and gave an unbelievably descriptive account of the attack, the jury found Anderson guilty, and he was sentenced up to 210 years of prison. But however, the DNA results came back and overturned his conviction after 20 years. However, an innocent 18-year-old man sat behind iron bars for 20 years. Now let me get into the witnesses, what the witness experienced before and during giving their testimony and identifications to the police. There are two things that can change a witness's statement. One being witness talk. This is when two or more people experience the same crime and they discuss it. When they discuss it, they feel compelled to mix the memories. When they mix all these memories together, they mix the aired ones in with it. And because they mix the aired ones with it, this counts for inaccurate eyewitness statements. Another thing that can change eyewitness statements are misinformation effect. This is when the eyewitness goes into the interview and the interviewer gives subtle hints, or he or she gives questions that make the eyewitness doubt themselves. Because this eyewitness doubts themselves because of somebody who was not there, this eyewitness can lead to a false identification. My last point is another problem on identification and why it's unreliable. It is that trauma and stress can affect the memory. A forensics psychologist goes by the name of John Charles Ewing said that when a person experiences a traumatic event, they can develop different levels of PTSD. They can develop levels so small that an untrained and unprofessional person couldn't even pick up on it. But because there's different levels, everybody shows it in different ways. Some try to forget the whole memory. Others will try to talk about it, but then completely break down in the middle of it. When I was 14 years old, I was in a horse accident that caused a lot of pain and a lot of trauma and a lot of stress. But if I was asked to relive this accident and give details about it, I could probably give a few basic details. And I could tell them I was scared, I was in disbelief. That's about all I could give them. Now that I have gone over my points, and I have given you evidence on human memory and emotion, mistaken identification, eyewitness talk, misinformation effect, and how high stress and trauma can affect one's memory, I hope that I have persuaded you that eyewitness identification is unreliable. Now take a minute and think about your past memories. How much of those have you gotten wrong?